Hello and welcome back, everybody, to the DanJohnUniversity.com podcast. I'm Dan John, and this is episode 246. Remember, this is a question and answer format, so if you have questions, send them to the podcast at this address, podcast@DanJohnUniversity.com. I'll do my best to answer every question. We get a lot of repeats, and I try my best to answer the question as you ask them. Let's get started. So our first question is from John, and it's an issue that comes up a lot. I'm a 63-year-old lifter who loves pull-ups for back work. However, at 215 pounds, my elbows and tendons can handle the load. It should be can't. My elbows and tendons can't handle the load, and now even kettlebell cleans hurt. Any warm-up steps I could do to try and alleviate the pain when I'm doing the work? Well, John, this is a condition. I don't know who first named it, but I've been using it over 2 decades. Middle-age pull-up syndrome. And for some reason, at a certain time and place, pull-ups just start to make the elbows ache. Generally, at least the experience that I have, and people have told me about it, it comes when you get those failed pull-up attempts or those grinding ones. You know, if you're popping up and hitting the middle of your chest on every rep, and you boom, boom, you're like a little jack in the box, and every rep just spring, you might not have the issue. But at 63 and at 215, you're gonna have the issue. You asked about warm-up techniques. There's an issue, I think, in the world of fitness now that for some reason we can all just come up with a mobility drill or a drill with bands or rubber bands or a little cream on something or something, or you stick your head this way and you push your hand this way and things disappear. In the tradition I'm from, injuries take time to recover from. And John, you might be injured, and I don't see anywhere here that you said you've seen a therapist, a physical therapist, a physio, a medical doctor of any kind. I'd like you to get this looked at. But the point that I want to talk about is this. There's not always a good gym answer for a medical issue. Sometimes we need help. If you do my assessment, there's a couple of times where I say, well, I don't want to work with you until you've seen an eye doctor, a dentist, and a medical doctor, because I need those professionals to help me to deal with your problems. In this case, when I saw that kettlebell cleans are starting to hurt, you've really got yourself into a position with this elbow pain that I don't know of any magic wands. I'm not, and I'm not really joking, that can help. The thing that seems to help most people who get MAPS, middle-age pull-up syndrome, is time off. And then you slowly build it back up, and yet if you push it, it comes right back. 40, 50 years ago, it was very common in America during the tennis boom. Tennis became we had the jogging boom followed by the tennis boom, I think, if I have those right. And all of a sudden, a whole bunch of people who just started playing tennis and tried to beat their best friend and hit the ball as hard as they could, and they got something very similar to MAPS. And the cure for that isn't more tennis, it's not more pull-ups, it's rest and maybe even some other long-term restorative care. And that you got to see a physio, a physical therapist, somebody who's qualified to assess this. In my new book, I have a chapter in there where one of the things I've decided is honestly, I'm almost tired of answering pull-up questions and chin-up questions because so many people flounder with them. So my thought is that I'm going back to more of the barbell tradition, and I don't recommend pull-ups at all in a lot of my programs anymore. I love the pull-up. I think there's great value to it. But my decision was this. Because there's so many red flags that go with pull-ups. There's so many questions about, you say to do 2 sets of 5, but I can't do a single pull-up. Give me a program to build up to a single pull-up. Then we get you up to a single pull-up, and the next question is, now I want to do 5 pull-ups, and the next question is, what do I do because my elbows hurt from pull-ups? And I've been seeing this cycle over and over to the point that there's great value in pull-ups. I get that. But for a lot of people, I just recommend you don't do any at all. I wish I had a better answer than that, John. I wish I had this marvelous pull-up program, but I just feel like we're chasing something that's not giving us a lot of benefit. Again, you're going to hear a lot of people comment, I can do pull-ups and I have no troubles. After a certain age, pull-ups cause trouble for a lot of people. And to the point that when you hear the same complaint over and over, it's time to maybe reconsider and rethink an exercise. My advice to you, John, is get some kind of medical care, some kind of medical intervention. It could be very simple, what they ask you to do. It could be a combination of medicine, exercises, obviously some rest, and then maybe a smart approach later about getting back into going after that elbow work. If you can't do kettlebell cleans, I can't say you can possibly do pull-ups. So take care of yourself, all right? Thanks. It's a good question, and thank you. We have a question from Jim, and these are long questions, so hang in there. I have 2 questions, but first, thank you for Easy Strength. You're welcome. I was an early contractor of COVID, and it gave me atrial fibrillation. For 2 years, it was the gift that kept giving, and I suffered from it chronically. I knew about Easy Strength and never tried it, but AFib sucks the stamina out of you, and I floundered with my workouts. So I was open to anything. I also gained over 30 pounds. I felt terrible. Also, too, I have a good friend who has the same condition and had to make major career changes. And another good friend of mine actually died of this. So I certainly am walking with you on this one, Jim. I follow you on YouTube and I've read most of your books. So I bought digital copies of the Easy Strength Omnibook and Easy Strength for Fat Loss. They're available at danjohnuniversity.com/bookstore, for those of you who don't know. After reading them, I developed a program I call Easy Strength with AFib. I followed the program for 40 continuous workouts. I had impressive strength gains. I started over and I lost almost 40 pounds in the process. Well, hats off to you, Jim. That's impressive and good for you, and I mean that. The program is amazing, and I can't thank you enough. You're welcome, of course. Easy Strength has been a blessing. If anyone listening has thought about Easy Strength, get the book and start the program. Don't wait until you have no choice like I did. Thanks for being so honest here. My stamina improved, and after numerous cardioversions and 2 ablations, I'm ready for something new. Wow. Which brings me to the questions. What kind of training program would you recommend to get me ready for the RKC? And now some specific stuff, and this is for you, Jim. I'm 70 years old and have trained my entire adult life in weightlifting and martial arts. My doctors cleared me for the more robust training, and I have set a goal to obtain an RKC certification before the end of the year. Funds are limited, so I'm tucking money back every week to pay for the course. I'm impressed by this. I would like to put together a rock-solid home program to successfully complete the certification the first time through. I'm also looking for a kettlebell coach to help me with technique. If I do the cert, the most important thing to do for you is to show up in good shape. But I do want to answer these questions as they come. Mike Warren Brown and I put together a program to prepare somebody for the RKC. The whole program, in fact, it's even in the workout generator, is available there at danjohnuniversity.com. And I got to tell you, you might want to just go look at it. We talk about a lot of things. We talk about the last week, the preparation. But I do want to tell you one thing, Jim. I don't know your weight, so I'm going to get as close as I can. But I think you have to do, and I don't know your body weight, so let me just tell you the numbers that I think will be right. Your snatch test is 50 reps in 3 minutes, and I think it's with the 20. Very reasonable, very doable. So the first thing I would tell you to do is, as you look at the program that we recommend, is have all the snatch numbers. When I tell you I want you to do a set of 50 with this, a set of 50 with that, a set 100 with this and a set 100 with that. I want you to do 50 and 50. I still think that the rite of passage, that's the clean and press program with kettlebells, I still think that is the best preparation that there is. If you are goblet squatting, doing some double kettlebell front squats, and you do those clean and presses, you pretty much are prepared. Oddly, and we talk a lot about this on this podcast, the armor building complex is your graduation workout with me. The ABC also preps you for the most rigorous part of the weekend. A couple of things will probably help you. One, if you can do about a full day workshop, whatever the workshop is, where you get used to being instructed to, and then moving, instruction, movement over a day might be a real good test for you. I would recommend something like maybe an original strength workshop with Tim Anderson. There's a few others that are pretty good, but any kind of way where you practice kind of, you don't sit around, you kind of lay around, you're taking notes on the floor, you jump up, you do an exercise, you get back down, you take a few notes, you do a little test, you do this, you do these. So there's a lot of movement all day long, and that's what I find exhausts me the most. Now I'm younger than you, I'm 3 years younger, but what exhausts me is the long days of always going. So any way you can kind of mimic that in your training too, I would recommend it. When you see Mike, our program, Mike and I, one of the things you'll pick up on is it's the consistency. It's the 3 days a week. It's the varied days. It's practicing with the bell. It's staying focused on the RKC weekend itself. And I think that's the key. But just remember, in your case, have the snatch numbers. And I think it's pretty doable. You know, for those of you listening who are not 70-year-olds who are trying to become RKCs, having the snatch numbers is not a bad idea in that program for just people who want to enjoy the benefits of the prep, but don't want to just get smoked by those really hard snatch workouts that are in there. And now the second question, the pollen is heavy today. I have a small gym in the basement. Included in my equipment are kettlebells. I have two 16K bells and one each of the 20 and 24. I have saved the money to buy another kettlebell, and I thought about moving up to a 28K. Would it be better to buy one 28K kettlebell or a second 20? Generally, long term, I would do another double with the 20. I think, you know, with your single 24 at your age and where you're at, having double 16s and double 20s and the single 24 would be just enough. I mean, I have, obviously I have a full collection of kettlebells, but weirdly, the 28 my original kettlebell was just a 28, but for your prep and your long-term usage, as I understand the questions you're asking, I would stick with just doing the double 20s. I love the double 20s. When I travel, I always have a 20 with me, as appropriate, obviously not on international flights, which would be interesting. But, I'll put double 20s in the back seat of the car and, seat belt them in and travel around. I find the 16s and the 20s to be the best kettlebells most of the time for most people. Obviously the 28 will be fun, but I don't want it to end up being a doorstop for you that you don't use. I would save your money and get the 20. So you have double 20s, double 16s, and that 124. And thank you for all that information about Easy Strength. And I hope things go well with you on this, on the RKC. Thank you. We have a question from Craig. I am 48 and working through a session of Easy Strength for fat loss via your book. I enjoy your humor and your approach makes living healthier feel achievable. Yeah, thank you. I think you have to have a sense of humor about life because, as our good friend Rocky taught us, life, it's going to knock you down. When doing any squat exercise, how far should a person drop their butt down to execute proper form? Are there different depths I should aim for with the various squat exercises. Now, it's interesting. I've never had that question before. One of the things about the goblet squat, when I go around and teach it, the concept of the goblet squat, which I invented, and that's true, is the original idea was that you would take your right elbow and push your right knee out, take your left elbow and push your left knee out, and then just wedge yourself underneath. Try to stay vertical. You got the horns of the bell here. You got the bell. You've got the bell, part of the bell here, and you would sit there, and then of course maybe do some curls or whatever, and you'd be tall, and you let your legs naturally sink down. I liked it. When I see that, most people can get oddly deeper doing that because the counterweight of the bell seems to allow you to drop through your hips a little bit more. I was talking not long ago about my best clean and jerk of my life, and when the weight hit me on the chest, it just drove me to the ground. And it's the deepest squat I've ever done, but it was deep because the load on that clean and jerk was so heavy. I like what you're saying here, Craig, because, I see a lot of people do back squats in real life and then online, and I think most people don't back squat deep enough. But having said that, because of where the load is, a lot of people get those weird little back movements because in many cases, that's just the way they're designed. And some of those issues people have with back squats are hard to fix. You'll notice when people slide over to front squats with that more vertical stance, you don't see as much issues with the lower back and the hip area doing odd things. And of course, if you do the overhead squat, that's when you get really exposed in your upper body mobility, your shoulder mobility, your T-spine mobility. Obviously, front squats expose your wrist, elbow, and general shoulder flexibility more, but overhead squats really stress it. So what I like about your question, Craig, is that you seem to understand that we're going to have some variance between that movement and this movement when it comes to being on the platform or being in the gym. And that's true. Personally, let's go through let's go through it just like we went there. I think with the goblet squat, most people can go pretty deep. I think with the double kettlebell front squat, I think most people can go pretty deep. When you move to the barbell front squat, that's when the wrist the wrist issues start to show up, and a lot of people will start to shallow up a little bit, but generally most people still front squat deeper than they back squat. With the overhead squat, if you can do them, you should be about your front squat depth. That's why I do think the Zercher squat has such value. That's where you hold the bell and the crux of your elbow. It is really the same idea as goblet squats, and some people can go really deep on Zercher squats. Then it comes to the back squat, and now we get into all the controversies. If you want to get power lifters angry at each other, show another federation's back squats, and they'll all get into a fight about what is an actual back squat. I've watched some people back squat at meets online, and they get all three white lights, and it looks more like an eighth squat to me. So the reason I went down that road a little bit there, and I think it's important, is that a lot of people will back squat shallow. Not many people will goblet squat shallow. So a lot of it can be fixed, Craig, just by changing the exercise selection. For most people, most of the time, I think the goblet squat is all you need. If you want a challenge, do that where I use the broomstick or the PVC pipe and do that goblet squat to overhead squat drill. You can just Google that or just search it here at YouTube, and there's a video of me doing it poorly. But the really double kettlebell front squats is a good way to build mass and all kinds of other qualities. The barbell front squat, I think, is probably the best athlete builder overall. And then as you advance, I would add overhead squats. The Zercher squat is a great way. I mean, if you can handle the bar in your elbows, it's a great way to squat. And then there's the back squat, where depth always is a question. So I hope that was worth the time. Thank you. Craig. And that was a good question. We have another Jim today. Here we go. Jim says this: I have just started following Easy Strength. I am 57 years old and I've been active and lifted since my early teens. I took a break during COVID and I have nothing but problems getting back into training. My questions are, number one, what is a good warm-up between the 2x5? I currently walk for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and some body weight squats and push-ups. I would say that is just about a perfect warm-up. I think if you can get it in, a walk before you lift, a walk after you lift is a cool down. Probably, those are my favorites. Okay, I think walking is marvelous, especially if you have a strong stride and it looks like you have a little bit of intention as you go. When I do 2 sets of 5, I really never need to warm up because those are pretty reasonable loads for me that I feel like I can just walk in and go. But any kind of general warm up is fine. The problem, with warm ups is a lot like the problem with variation. A lot of it depends on you, how you're wired, what you want out of your training, and what you need out of your training. So for me, for example, I'll get up in the morning, first thing, still drinking coffee. I'll go into the sauna. My sauna's right there, and I'll do 10 minutes of breathing, some neck mobility exercises that Tim Anderson gave me, some other movements in the sauna to get myself going. I ice shower. I use an electric razor now, so I don't have to worry about shaving and cutting my skin up. And then when I go out to the gym and I start getting everything ready, I'll do my hang, my 30-second hang, my 30-second goblet squat at the bottom of the goblet squat sit. So I would recommend maybe those 2 movements too. And then I generally do either a lot of marching in place. I'll put my right hand on my left knee as I march in place, that kind of cross-crawling stuff. I might do this speed skater thing I do to warm up my lower body, but it's very open-ended, very rhythmatic. Whatever feels good that day is what I might need to do. I always do hip thrusts and clamshells before I start lifting. So maybe for me, even though I say I don't really warm up much, but when you take the sauna and those original strength moves in there, when you take my hang and my sit, and you take the hip thrusts and the clamshells and the march in place, maybe I do a longer warm up. But for me, it's very natural, very open-ended. If I'm stiff, and that happens sometimes when I slide over to the Olympic lifts, I do take naturally a longer warm up, and I'll go right back to the bar, 10s on each side, 10, just very slow progression upward just to get everything ready to go. Question number 2, do you have a prescribed length of time between sets? I find I'm only waiting 30 to 45 seconds between sets. Jim, you're more like me on this. If I have a set bar and I'm doing 2 sets of 5, after I rack the weight or put the weight on the ground, I kind of wander around for a few seconds, and then that's like, let's get this done, especially if it's 2 sets of 5 or even 3 sets of 3. When people ask me about rest periods, I still think it's like warm-ups. It's very individual. I compete in weightlifting meets, and you never know what your rest period is going to be. So I like to push my rest periods in training to prepare myself for meets. And you always get at least a minute or so. If the person right before me, we're going to use the same weight, they miss the lift and then they set the bar back up. Then I hear, Dan John on the platform, I'm lifting right after them. Now, if I make the lift and someone comes in after, now I'm looking at 2, 3, 4 minutes. And that sounds like a long time, but at a meet, those lifts are big. So generally, I like to train myself to prepare myself for those 3 minutes or less to be ready to go. Let's just say, I have a couple of programs where I actually do measure rest periods. My favorite time is exactly 1 minute rests. And let's just try this, Jim. Let's go for you to exactly 1 minute rests between the sets. So a set of 5, 1 minute, a set of 5. And then give me some feedback on how that feels for you, okay? It's not that much more, but maybe it'll help you long term with the bigger lifts, okay? Thank you. Okay, we have a question from Tajish. I'm 25 years old, 6 feet tall, and weigh 82 kilos, about 180 for my American audience. I started lifting 4 months ago following a bodybuilding program. Basically 3 sets of 8 to 12 push-pull legs. I just finished reading Easy Strength Omni book and read Mass Made Simple last month. My goal is to get as big and strong as possible before I get into my 30s. Dunking on my friends and pick up basketball would be a great bonus. Also, I'd like to be the go-to sofa moving friend in my 60s like you. In Easy Strength Omni book, you said this, so I'm quoting myself now. So let me say this. Beginners don't seem to do well on easy strength. The reason is simple. Beginners make progress on foundational basic training, although one could argue easy strength fits this. So my question is, what should I do as a beginner with a lot of time during the day for the next 6 to 12 months? Well, honestly, if you just went to the gym 3 days a week, or if you just lifted 3 days a week and you took it seriously and you stuck with the tradition, I see, what you're doing here with the push-pull and legs, though what does legs mean? I'd have felt a little bit better if you'd have said squats and deadlifts. That's question number 1. Are you doing squats and deadlifts? If not, why not? Or I should say, member of the deadlift family and member of the squat family. For beginners, and I've worked with a lot of them in America, I work with a lot of youth. My job in the beginning is to teach them the whole spectrum of the weight room. So I teach the standard movements, the power lifts, the Olympic lifts, kettlebells, tumbling, calisthenics, hurdle walkovers, the whole family of loaded carries, all kinds of mobility and flexibility movements, because I think it takes about a year or 2 of that kind of general training to let the young athlete know, and well, first learn the basics, and then from there see the connection. So when you're doing powerlifting style deadlifts, that looks really different to some people than a snatch deadlift when you're doing the Olympic lifts. But once you've done them a while, you can see how the two of them support each other. Almost universally, I tell people to start off with the Southwood program. You'll find that over at danjohnuniversity.com. It's a very simple program. Is how I started. There's only 4 exercises: the power clean, the military press, the front squat, and the bench press. You do them a set of 8, a set of 6, a set of 4. I write about this in, I think, all my books. I know for sure I got a big section in 40 Years with a Whistle, but you'll also find it for free on my website. And if you get the 8, the 6, and the 4, all 18 reps, then at the next workout, you add a little bit. I would say, maybe 2 kilos a workout. If you get all 18 reps, the next workout, you come in and you add 2 kilos, kilo on each side. For my Americans, about 5 pounds, and just keep adding. If you get the 8, 6, 4 again, next time you come in and add weight, and you just keep on that. Generally, for most people, you kind of tap that program out. If you start really light, it'll take longer. But if you come in with reasonable weight, after about 3 to 6 weeks, you've tapped the program out. I then stick with those same 4 lifts, and I add a 5th lift, the deadlift. And when we do that, we slide the numbers to 5 sets of 5. Just to make it as simple as I can. Every 4th workout, I want you to do, so 5 sets of 5, the 5 basic exercises. So the 5 exercises, that would be the clean, the military press, the front squat, the bench press, and the deadlift. 5 sets of 5. Every fourth workout, I would like you to do a set of 5 with what you do 5 sets of 5 at. Add a little bit of weight, get 3, add some more, and make sure you get the double. So every fourth workout, you're sort of testing that double. Now, the key is to watch that double go up. That'll keep you going for about, 6 weeks, maybe even 8 weeks for some people. And then it's time to switch things up more weekly. Staying with that template of those 5 exercises, what I think are the best. Oh, one thing too, feel free to add barbell curls into this program and any kind of tricep work you want to do or anything else you want to work. But make sure you get those 5 key exercises before you add anything else. If you can't if you can barely walk after those 5 exercises, don't add more. Even if your friends are, don't. So 8-6-4 for a few weeks with the 4 exercises, 5 sets of 5 for a while with the 5 exercises. Sticking with the 5 exercises, probably time to switch things up again. And then this time I'd recommend, week 1, 5 sets of 3, week 2, 3 sets of 5, week 3, 5 sets of 5 again, and then week 4, kind of a lighter deload week of 3 sets of 8. And most people can stick on that for a long time, sticking with those 5 basic exercises and anything extra you want to do. But that is the most foundational training program I can give you. Here in the United States, my athletes always want to do skull crushers and curls and all that because that's what they see in the magazines. So if you do want to do extra, get the workout in and then do it after. I have no concerns with that. And then after that little program I told you that, the 3 sets of 5, 5 sets of 3, 5 sets of 5, 3 sets of 8, do that a few rounds. If you start to stall out, step back, think about where you're going with your goals. And maybe by then, this time to go to an easy strength program or, some other kind of training program. Maybe something as fun as the 10,000 swing challenge. All right. That's a good question. Thank you. We have a question from Matthias. I'm a 40-year-old dad commuting by bike to work 3 to 5 days a week. Excellent. Which transfers into 90 to 150 kilometers per week. Well, that's really good. This is great to read that. I'm also trying to gain strength and hypertrophy using your kettlebell push, pull, hinge, squat, loaded carry program, combined with some military press, back squats, deadlifts, and pull-ups at the gym. Okay, that's a lot of work. I usually go for 3 to 4 sets of 8, and I work out about 3 times a week. After having realized I need to eat more, especially protein, I'm starting to see some results. Mixing the kettlebells and the barbells is going to be a lot of work. It's going to be a lot of work in the gym. Seeing you say you do 3 sets of 8 with each makes me think that you're reasonable, and let's continue on. My question is, do you think my commuting is getting in the way of my gains when it comes to strength and hypertrophy, assuming the time spent on the bike doesn't make me go less to the gym? If it is there any way I can change the effect? That is, be eating more, go slower, zone 2 work, or perhaps faster on the bike, doing something different at the gym or with the kettlebells. I think the problem you're having, Matthias, is you're overtraining. 150K a week on a bike is great. I'm sure your cardiovascular, your heart health, your arteries are nice and wide and everything's flowing through really well. But my concern is that you're biking fairly far 5 days a week, plus you're doing the kettlebell program, plus you're doing all the barbell stuff. And I'm just wondering if that's just too much. So what I would do is I'd keep the bike ready, because at 40 years old and a dad, well, first off, the bike is going to save you a ton of money. As a dad, you're going to need money as a dad, trust me. But the other thing is, you need that kind of you need that cardiovascular conditioning. What I would suggest you do is maybe this. Maybe 2 to 3 weeks, do that kettlebell program you have there. And then 2 to 3 weeks, just the barbell program you have. Stick with the 3 sets of 8 or whatever you think is good, the 4 sets of 8. It's interesting, that was the program that we did at Skyline College back in the day. And we had so many exercises we're expected to do. So many. 4 sets of 8 of the reverse curl, 4 sets of 8 of the wrist curl, 4 sets of 8 of the lat pull down, 4 sets of 8 of the bench, the military. Oh, there were so much things. That's what I'd recommend. I don't think you're overdoing it, but I think that 3 weeks of kettlebells, 3 weeks of barbells probably is a better way to go if you want to keep yourself kind of humming along there. Don't give up the bike riding. Keep it where it's at. You're doing great on it. I think you'll find that if you get into the weight room, you take care of business, and you keep that protein up that you increased, I think good things will happen. Now, I do have that book. I don't know if it's out yet by the time you're hearing this, but my new bodybuilding book, really just mixes 2 exercises: the armor building program and high rep pressing. And in the back of my mind, Matthias, I'm thinking that might be a better program for you. Just to focus on 1 day a week, high rep, a lot of volume presses. The next time, armor building complex. The next workout, high rep pressing. The next week, the ABC, high rep press, ABC, and repeat. I'm just wondering out loud, that might be a better way for you to go. Don't stop riding that bike, and just adjust on the weightlifting side. Well, that was a short episode, and I enjoyed it. So that was episode 246. We're not that far away from episode 250, which shocks me. Remember, if you have questions, send them to us at podcast@danjohnuniversity.com. I'll do my best to answer them. And as always, until next time, let's all keep on lifting and learning. Thanks so much.